Mr. Mayor, it's 7 p.m.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's regular Monday evening, October 17th City Council meeting. Now call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. All those who are here can tell that we're back in person at our meetings, but we're actually doing hybrid meetings. So this message is for those who choose to participate from home. If you are here, please remember that you need to let the clerk know that you'd like to speak on any item, either the early public comment item on anything that's not on tonight's agenda, or on any other agenda item. Fill out a yellow speaker slip, which you can pick up at the back of the room, fill it out, and give it to the clerk. Several ways for you to participate if you're not here, or in fact, actually, let me just go back on that a little bit. If participating remotely, use the raise your hand feature. Oh, Madam Clerk, you want to read the roll call? Am I a little out of order?
That's okay. I'll pick up after you.
Okay. If you want to, if you're Zooming or calling in by phone, you can be called on at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press star 9 to raise your hand, and when called upon, press star 6 to unmute. These options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Here.
Councilmember Goethals.
Here.
Councilmember Lee.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pappen.
Here.
Mayor Bonilla.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have 3 ceremonial items tonight. The first item is the 100th anniversary of Central Park, which is a major milestone for the city of San Mateo. I have a proclamation here that I'll read and present to Joanne Magrini, the Park and Recreation Director, and we'll allow her to have a few words to speak. The proclamation. Whereas San Mateo residents have access to over 30 public parks that include some of the most desirable recreational amenities on the peninsula, and whereas for 100 years, San Mateo Central Park has given community members and visitors alike a refuge for recreation, peaceful reflection, relaxation, and social engagement. And whereas the land where Central Park is located was purchased in 1852 by railroad magnate Charles Polhemus. The land was later purchased by sea captain and founder of the Alaska Commercial Company, Captain William Cole, in 1880. And whereas San Mateo Central Park became the first municipal park in San Mateo County in 1922 after San Mateo voters approved the purchase of the 16-acre Cole estate. Mayor Thomas Brady issued an $80,000 bond for the purchase, which today equates to $1.4 million. And whereas today visitors to San Mateo Central Park enjoy a baseball field, tennis courts, public art, a playground, a recreation center, miniature train, rose garden, arboretum, and the Japanese garden. And whereas San Mateo Central Park Japanese Garden exhibits our great pride in our special sister city relationship with Toyonaka. Built in 1965 and designed by Japanese architect Nagao Sakurai of the Imperial Palace of Tokyo. And whereas San Mateo Central Park's horticultural heritage is maintained by the San Mateo Arboretum Society, whose founding members were also responsible for the restoration of the adjoining Cole Pump House in 1974. The Rose Garden and other botanical aspects of Central Park are maintained by Arboretum Society volunteers. And whereas San Mateo Central Park is also a place where seniors find communities through self-help for the elderly, which provides meals, adult education programs, recreational activities, health services, and voter registration assistance. And whereas the happy memories made in San Mateo Central Park are too many to count, and it's served as a venue for festivals, barbecues, picnics, and fundraisers. And whereas, as we honor San Mateo Central Park's past, we also look forward to future changes and improvements over the next several years as we plan for the addition of a Fallen Heroes Memorial, the tennis court relocation, playground renovations, and the construction of a new plaza and community building. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Rick Bonilla, Mayor of the City of San Mateo, do hereby recognize the San Mateo Central Park 100th anniversary. And be it further resolved, I call upon all residents to celebrate the 100th anniversary with us on October 22nd, this coming Saturday, at San Mateo Central Park from 12 noon to 4 p.m. Festivities will include games, music, and family-friendly activities. Signed by the mayor. Would you like to say a few words, and then I'll bring this for you?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Honorable. Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. It is truly my honor and privilege to be here to accept this proclamation this evening. I'd like to recognize and extend my gratitude to the community members, council members, commissioners, and city staff who have, for a century, participated in the planning, maintenance, and programming of this unique park. This is a destination park on the peninsula that has served many generations and will continue to do so. It offers so many opportunities for all different abilities and ages, from the Japanese garden to the coal pump house, from the train ride to the ice rink. It is a home to many of our city's special events and is truly a space for the community to gather. It has never been more evident that through the pandemic, our parks connect people, both for their physical and mental health, providing a positive and connected community. We have two exciting projects, both part of Phase 1 of the Central Park Master Plan that will likely break ground around this time next year. And those are the Fallen Heroes Memorial and the Central Park Playground renovation. It is a very exciting time to be part of the future of the Central Park and to help mold how it will serve the community for the next 100 years. The city is hosting an event at Central Park this Saturday, as the mayor mentioned, from noon to 4 to celebrate this momentous occasion. There will be historic displays of the park spanning the past 100 years, games, food, entertainment, a dunk tank, and at 1 p.m. there will be a short ceremony to commemorate the park and recognize all of our partnerships. We hope you will all be able to attend. If you want more information about the event, you can visit the City of San Mateo's special events webpage. Thank you for this proclamation, and I hope to see you all on Saturday.
Thank you very much. And now I'll bring down your proclamation. Would you guys like to come for a picture? Very good. Now the next ceremonial item will be proclamation in honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we'll have, I think, Matt Lethan from the San Mateo Police Department. Thank you, Matt. I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month, which is an annual campaign to increase awareness of this disease, and whereas National Breast Cancer Awareness Month remains dedicated to increasing public knowledge about the importance of early detection of breast cancer diagnosis and treatment. And whereas the National Cancer Institute estimates in the United States more than 287,000 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed this year, and over 43,000 people will die. And whereas too many women do not utilize mammography at regular intervals, even though research indicates it is the best available method of detection to decrease health death rates. And whereas increased breast cancer screening increases early detection, reduces death, increases life expectancy, decreases late-stage cancer diagnoses, and increases 5-year survival rates. And whereas organizations such as the American Cancer Society, Susan G. Komen for the Cure, and our own San Mateo Police Department and Police Officers Association have held community events this month to promote awareness, conduct screenings, raise funds for research, and educate the community about the importance of early detection. And whereas the City of San Mateo supports breast cancer research and wishes to educate residents about detection, risk factors, and treatment, and encourages our city to go pink in October to raise awareness, promote early screening, and honor those affected by breast cancer. Now therefore be it resolved, I, Mayor Rick Bonilla of the City of San Mateo, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 22nd, or October 2022, as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, signed by the mayor. And anybody seeing the police cars anywhere around town will notice the pink on the side of the car. It's a great thing.
That's right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, Council. I was hoping to say a few words.
Sure.
No, just on behalf of Chief Ed Barberini and the entire police department, it's my honor and privilege to be here tonight and joining you to drawing attention to this important cause. The San Mateo Police Department is committed to finding innovative and holistic ways to help support our community, and breast cancer awareness is an important example of that. For the past several years, the police department has joined in the Pink Patch Project, which is a public awareness campaign to raise awareness of the disease, to encourage early detection, and to raise funds for the continued research and treatment. During the month of October, our employees don pink patches like the ones I'm wearing tonight to draw awareness and attention to the matter. This year, however, our department raised our game in supporting this important cause. Led by a core group of employees, which was spearheaded by Officer Julio Jolivet, who is here with us tonight, the department hosted a pink patch party for the community, staffed educational booths at the weekly farmers market, conducted fundraising efforts, and like you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, wrapped some of our patrol cars and motorcycles in pink. In a minute, you will see, in addition to the image on the screen, additional images of our efforts, and we are extremely proud of our employees that have championed this noble cause to help support our community. And I'd like to have Officer Joel Levette come up and speak briefly to share on how this has touched him personally and the results of our efforts.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I've never stood before council, so I don't know how this works, but I'm glad to be here tonight to advocate for breast cancer awareness. After two years ago, my mom's diagnosis opened my eyes to this disease and the need for us to continue the conversation of remaining aware of the dangers of breast cancer and how early it can be treated and overcome. My mom's here with me tonight. She's cancer-free now, thankfully. So after her treatment, I challenged my department to do more for breast cancer awareness. We partnered with one of only two in the entire state of the mobile mammogram stagecoaches. I drove down to LA where I escorted the stagecoach up, and we offered 35 mammograms free of charge to our community members and raised $5,000 towards supporting breast cancer patients. The department's been tremendous in its efforts along with your guys' support, so I appreciate this effort here today. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. And now I'll come down and present the proclamation.
We have patches for the council if you'd like to.
Thank you. Council, come on down.
Very much. Thank you. And I'll have Julio hold it. Hey, Julio, we're going to get right in the center.
Oh, perfect.
Right here. You want to come right here? Right in center.
Pink patches. Pink patches. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, oh, 1 second. Okay, moving on. Third and final ceremonial item tonight is Fire Prevention Month, a proclamation, which I have right here. And it looks like we have Melinda Martin from the Deputy Fire Marshal. Proclamation. Whereas the City of San Mateo is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting San Mateo. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally, and homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. Home fires killed more than 3,704 people in the United States in 2019, according to the United States Fire Administration, and fire departments in the United States responded to 354,400 home fires. And whereas having an escape plan developed with family members can increase chances of everyone's survival. And whereas the City of San Mateo residents should know at least 2 ways out of every room, including windows. And whereas City of San Mateo residents should be sure everyone in the home understands a safe meeting location away from the home. And whereas City of San Mateo residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. And whereas City of San Mateo residents are encouraged to make sure their home fire escape plan also includes those with disabilities and medical conditions. And whereas San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department first responders are dedicated to responding to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas the City of San Mateo residents that are responsive to public education measures are better able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2022 Fire Prevention Week theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, effectively serves to remind us it is important to learn how to safely escape from our homes in the event of a fire. Now, therefore, be it resolved, I, Rick Bonilla, Mayor of the City of San Mateo, do hereby proclaim October 17th through 23rd, 2022 as Fire Prevention Week throughout this city. And I urge all of its citizens to practice Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of San Mateo Consolidated Fire Department's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Week 2022. Signed by me. And please go ahead and say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, and I want to thank the City Council for your support with this campaign. Fire Prevention Month coincides with the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. A great many lives and buildings were lost during the conflagration which destroyed the city of Chicago. In response to this tragedy, the city government and fire department developed building codes and standards aimed to prevent the rapid spread of fires and preserve life. It is from this singular event that the idea of Fire Prevention Month was born. Our campaign this year is Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape. It is important to know multiple ways out of your home and to educate your family on planned escape routes. Identifying a meeting place outside of your home where your family can meet is an easy way to be prepared for an emergency. Again, thank you, council members, for your commitment to public safety and honoring Fire Prevention Month.
Thank you very much. Now we'll present the proclamation. Would you guys like to join? Now it's time to move on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Deputy Clerk, please read the consent calendar.
With pleasure, Mayor. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered by council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion without discussion. If discussion is desired, that item may be removed and considered separately. Item number 4, City Council meeting minutes approval. Item number 5, City Council guidelines amendment. Item number 6, grand jury report, a delicate balance between knowledge and power, government transparency, and the public's right to know, response letter. Item number 7, citywide small trash capture project, agreement. Item number 8, use of public right-of-way, agreement. Item number 9, purchase and installation of public safety equipment, agreement. Item number 10, clean water program, amendment. Item number 11, San Mateo County Transportation Authority, Senate Bill 1, Solutions for Congestion Corridors and Local Partnership Program Grant Application, Letter of Support. Item number 12, San Mateo County Gun Relinquishment Task Force Program, Memoranda of Understanding. Item number 13, Citywide Parking Enforcement Services, Amendment. Item number 14, Police Officer Lateral Hiring Recruitment Incentive Program, Extension. Item number 15, Permanent Local Housing Allocation, Grant Application. Item number 16, Mapping Software, Enterprise License Agreement. Item number 17, Outdoor Dining Guidelines, Amendments. Item number 18, Uncollectible Accounts Receivable Write-Off, Approval. Item number 19, November 8, 2022, statewide propositions, recommendations. And item number 12 has been removed to be considered separately.
Thank
That
you.
was item number 20, Fix in San Mateo. Thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, I'm going to ask, are there any council members wishing to pull anything besides, I believe it's item 20, Fix in San Mateo? Okay, seeing none, are there any members of the public wishing to have any item pulled for discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I have no speaker slips and I have no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Then I would accept a motion to accept all except item 20, which has been pulled.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Gothels?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla?
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
great. On item 20, I believe.
Yes, I was the one that pulled it. So I went over the proposal, and I just don't think I'm ready to sign on at this point. The problem I have with, in general, with civilian oversight boards is that you generally never know who's going to be appointed to serve on them. And if we take a look at what happened with the board that was appointed in charge of redistricting San Mateo County districts, you just tend to get a bunch of activists on those boards, and I feel that that could potentially compromise the ability of the sheriff's office to keep counties safe. So it's not that I'm necessarily against this, but I'm just not ready to sign on it at this time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Are there any public commenters on this item?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have no in-house speaker slips. I do have 2 hands raised. If I could go
Let's
ahead.
have 3 minutes each, please.
Okay. The first speaker is telephone ending in 663. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm Michael Levinson. I live in Daly City, and I'm with the North Peninsula chapter of ACLU, which is basically from Belmont north to the San Francisco border, and also a supporter of Fixin. I guess my comment would be that, number one, that the sheriff herself did come out in support of this during the campaign, and that there are, I guess, numerous things that the commission can be set up to do, but the commission is going to be presumably selected mostly by the Board of Supervisors, not by a group of advocates, if you want to call them that. So I think it's really something where we're asking you to support Fixon's effort. We're not asking you to support a particular proposal at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Nancy Goodban. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for listening to us and for your thoughtful remarks about this. My name's Nancy Goodban. I live in Redwood City, and I'm a volunteer with Fixon San Mateo County. I'm the Service Executive Director. I just wanted to thank those of you who have endorsed it. Thank you for putting it on the agenda. Civilian oversight really does protect civil rights. It increases transparency and accountability, and it actually does build bridges between law enforcement and the community. Under this AB 1185, which is a state law that allows the County Board of Supervisors to set up an Inspector General and a Civilian Oversight Board, it's required that the Board of Supervisors appoint the members of the board. They've done that with other commissions, even on kind of challenging topics of Behavioral Health Commission, Juvenile Justice, Delinquency Prevention Commission. And I think that we do have to have some faith in our institutions, really, that they're going to do the right thing. They're thoughtful about it. They've set up a committee to look at civilian oversight, and they really want to make this work for the county. Fixon San Mateo County has talked to the sheriff-elect, who also wants to make this work for the county, as do all of us who are basically local volunteers. We're all from San Mateo County, and we're all volunteers. So we're hoping that we can work together on trying to figure out how this would best be implemented. The proposal that President Horsey on the board and Jim Lawrence, who is the board chair of Fixon San Mateo County, came up with is that this be a two-phase process. And first, they just adopt a basic ordinance under the guise of AB 1185, that's the foundation for it, setting up an Inspector General and a Civilian Oversight Board with both with subpoena power, and then spend next year working out the details. Who's going to be on it? How are they going to be picked? The board committee of supervisors Pine and Slocum would be working on that, and they would be working with the community. They would, I would expect they'd be working with the new sheriff so that this would all work out to the benefit of the community. And really, in other places, it's turned out that it's done a good job in helping the police do their job better because they pay more attention to their reports. That's what the Palo Alto police chief was saying. They have less liability because now the officers are doing better reports because they know the auditor is going to be looking at them. So we really appreciate your support for this, and we do hope you can pass it tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have no other speakers.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I'll close this public comment. I'll bring it back to the council for any comments any council members may have.
I move approval.
Okay, motion for approval. Do we have a second? I second. Madam Clerk, could you please call the vote?
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
No.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Thank you very much. And that moves us over to public comment for items which are not on tonight's agenda. Members of the public wishing to comment on any item not appearing on tonight's agenda may address the City Council at this time. State law prevents council from taking action on any matter which is not on tonight's agenda. Your comments may be referred to staff for follow-up. Public comment is limited to a total of 15 minutes. However, an opportunity for additional public comment may be provided later in the agenda if needed. And let me provide one bit of information for anybody wishing to speak on any of these items as we go forward with our public meetings, doing the hybrid system that we have. If you wish to speak on an item, and as soon as you hear me talking about it, or the mayor talking about it, you should raise your hand. The clerk needs to see how many people wish to speak under each item so that we can decide how much time to allow each speaker. Thank you very much. If you wish to speak, raise your hand right now.
So thank you. If you're wanting to speak on an item not on the agenda, now is the time to raise your hand. I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Mr. Mayor, I have no in-house speaker.
This gentleman right here.
Michael Berube.
I'll be quick. On behalf of the San Mateo Chamber of Commerce, I've been charged to appear here before the council and thank Councilmember Pappen for providing opening remarks and extending a warm welcome to our newest member of the chamber, the Hopkins Carley Law Firm. They're a prestigious Silicon Valley law firm, and they opted to become a member at the highest contribution level. And Council Pappen's gesture goes far to connect local businesses with this community, encouraging their involvement, which we're encouraging. Simple, that's the message of tonight. Two of their attorneys in that law firm are part of our chamber's signature leadership programs as well. The only second thing they asked me to mention is, with the election season coming up, our public policy committee went into full gear, and they had the candidate forum in September, which featured all the council candidates discussing the pressing issues facing our region. And in October, the October meeting, the committee will be reviewing some of the key propositions on the November ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I have no hands raised.
Oh, good. Then we're going to close public comment period. Return to the agenda here. Next item on the agenda tonight. Item 21, under new business, downtown business improvement area resolution of intent. We have Jennifer Chen to present.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members.
I think you need your microphone on. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Let me repeat myself. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I am Jennifer Chen, the Economic Development Manager for the City of San Mateo. The item before you tonight is a proposal to modify a resolution of intent to modify the annual assessment for the DBIA. Luke Cohen will be making a presentation with the consultant, and I'll come back at the end to talk about next steps for the City Council.
Hi, Council and City staff. Thanks for having us. So the DSMA has been around for a while, since 1986, to be specific. Businesses in the downtown, as you know, pay a fee, an additional fee on top of their city business license. And that fee, that portion for the DSMA is transferred to us to do with as we please. And I like to think that we've done a lot of good over the years with this money. The DSMA uses the assessments to support cleanliness, public safety, public outreach, marketing, facilitating business member events, and public events. Annually in May, the City Council receives an annual report and a list of programs and activities describing how the DSMA will spend the money for the next year. And annually in June, the Council conducts a public hearing on the DSMA's work plan and approving the levy for the following fiscal year. So, over the years, historically, the DSMA has been a lot more active, certainly than it has been over the last 2 years. But we have, through the years, promoted downtown businesses through print ads, restaurant guides, social media, newsletters, updated websites. We've organized and support special events, including wine walks, community festivals, a Halloween hunt, the North B Street La Fiesta, and a Martin Luther King celebration, and lots more. We activate public spaces with pop-up performances and live music. We monitor restaurant and business changes downtown and welcome new businesses as they arrive downtown. We have regular meetings with the downtown business community to foster collaboration and support. programs initiated and funded by the DSMA historically continued throughout the years with public art, wall murals, yarn bombs, utility art boxes. We manage and sponsor the downtown cleaning porter, which is a full-time person that is actually there 7 days a week, in addition to the other person that is paid for by the city. So we have 2 cleaners downtown all the time, and we've also done holiday banners throughout the years. We also find it really important to broadcast health and safety updates, and this has been really important throughout COVID, getting the message out to our businesses and through our business newsletter and also our community newsletter, which we publish once a month. We were asked a lot during COVID to, update people on the current issues and requirements, and we're able to do that in a timely manner. We've also regularly had downtown design improvement walks. We walk around downtown with a group, both city staff and public works and the PD and representatives of the DSMA to ferret out problems and issues that need to be addressed, and usually things would happen soon after that. We maintain strong relationships with the downtown businesses, with city staff, and council members. And I think this is one of the most important things that the DSMA does, is have that connection where you know us, we know you, we find problems and we agree on a pathway and find solutions, and it's worked quite well. The assessments for the DSMA for the last 12 years have been flat with no change. And you know what inflation looks like today. And so that was no CPI adjustment, and we had an average of about $180,000 a year coming in. Over time, this is an important number to realize that over time, costs have gone up, and you, especially Drew, knows what it costs to hire city staff these days, how much the police department is, payroll is crazy. Costs have just gone up and up and up, and our funds are static. And further, during COVID, we reduced rates by 50% to try and give the businesses a break, because things were tough. I mean, we were worried about how we were paying the rent, let alone paying a DSMA fee on top of a business license. So we've seen this coming for a long time. And in 17, the last executive director that we had tried to pass an adjustment on the rates to try and rectify some of this. Wasn't terribly well conceived or thought through, and it was not passed by council. We went back to the drawing board. After Ann Feineman left, we decided to operate on an all-volunteer basis, so we really have one person that we employ to do the newsletter and social media, but all the other functions of the DSMA have been done on a volunteer basis only. So that went down in 18, and then since then we decided to save the executive director money, get our ducks in a row. We hired a consultant. We really went to town on trying to find an equitable way to adjust the rates to make them more fair for our business community. We continued on through into January of 20, when we were just about ready to go in terms of bringing it to council, and then what happened. So we're on hold again. So we've now reactivated our consultant. We've revised their report and done more public outreach and tried to bring it back up to what's happening today. And so just since March, we've been working on this again, but we've been doing a lot of outreach since 2018, trying to prep people for this. And I know the council's talked to me, probably all of you have talked to me about this at one time or another, several times over the last 5 years, trying to just bring you up to speed on what our needs are. So we've done a lot of outreach, as I've said. We've had in-person conversations with many businesses over the last 5 years, but in particular, since March of this year, we've really gone back at that and tried to find out what people are feeling and, what the temperature is. We hosted a virtual meeting on March 30th on Zoom. We hosted an in-person meeting at Worst Hall on September 22nd. We did a public mailing to all the businesses in the district in early October. We also sent e-newsletters and social media, and we've also had a Civic Mike website active with all the information available. So that's about it. And I think we have Sarah, our consultant from NBS, who's going to be with us here to go over some of the numbers with you.
Good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Sarah Mears with NBS, and I worked with the DSMA on the calculations relative to the assessments. Next slide, please. Briefly, we wanted to take a quick look at the map here. You can see the area in green is known as Zone 1. That's the area where there is a higher level of service being provided. That's kind of the primary core downtown area. And then the areas in yellow that you can see are Zone 2. In looking at the existing structure of the assessments, we recognized that there were categories that were really no longer applicable. For example, the existing or current categories included a miscellaneous category as well as a hotel category. And we, in looking at the various business makeup as of today, really felt that those categories could be redistributed. The hotel is actually more of a kind of a rooming house as opposed to a traditional hotel. And a lot of those miscellaneous businesses could be reclassified into either the professional or the service category. So in looking at the assessments, we did analyze the current assessment, looked at all of the businesses in the downtown area in both Zone 1 and 2. And we really came at the analysis, one, with the goal of raising additional funds. Of course, that's one of the primary goals with the adjustment, but also in looking at the categories to create a structure that is more equitable and more reasonable given the types of businesses that are currently operating in the downtown area. Next slide, please. We did not make any changes to either the boundary or those zones that you saw on the previous slide, the green and the yellow. We did look at changing the business types, those categories. Retail remains unchanged and is based on the gross receipts for each of those businesses. And we propose financial to stay at a flat rate. Professional and service categories are proposed to change to be based on the full-time equivalent employees. So really recognizing that there are different sizes of businesses that are operating in the downtown. Some of them are very small and some of them are much larger. And just recognizing that both for the professional and service categories that that those businesses really should be paying different rates. We've, again, as I mentioned, proposed to remove the miscellaneous and hotel business types and would categorize those businesses that had been in the miscellaneous or hotel categories to either professional or service categories as appropriate. Next slide, please. This slide provides you with a little bit more detail as to the business type categories. So looking at the financial category, this would be businesses in the financial industry, such as money management, payments, digital banking, and brick and mortar financial services. The Mills Health Center, it has a voluntary contribution, and specifically it is that particular business. The professional category would include businesses that offer services that are highly specialized and typically require licensing and regulation, things like software development, software integration, cloud storage, online storage, gaming, medical, legal, accounting, architectural, and engineering services. Retail includes businesses that have goods for sale, including food sales, bars, coffee, caterers, furniture, apparel, and jewelry. The service category includes businesses that provide personal services like salons, dry cleaners, auto bodies, gyms, vacuum repair shops. And there is an appendix in the memo that we provided that includes additional detail to clarify what businesses are categorized in which of the business type categories. Next slide. This may be a little hard to read. Hopefully you can see the detail. This is a comparison of the current rate structure to the revised structure for each zones 1 and 2. So you can see here that the current structure that is in the columns towards the left indicate the rates that are in place currently for each of these business type categories, and what the proposed rate would be, again, to raise about $400,000 in revenue. That's compared to the $180,000 in revenue, as mentioned, that is being raised currently. And so you can see both Zone 1 and Zone 2 rates there, and the percent change in the rates that are being proposed. Next slide, please.
Okay.
And Lou, that's back to you.
Thanks, Sarah. So we anticipate about $400,000 under this current proposal that will be generated. It's going to take a little time for that to ramp up the way the billing goes and when the business licenses are renewed. But in short order, we would hope to hire a full-time executive director to bring more presence, to be able to be out in the community, in the business community more, and just dealing with the multitude of things that we've been dealing with for the last, 5 years. It's been a struggle, I should say. We hope to also increase cleaning activities, because that's one of the main things that we get noise from, when people comment about downtown. Even though I think we're doing pretty darn good, we could do better. We hope to expand marketing, advertising, and publications to increase foot traffic to get more people downtown. And we hope to reinvigorate the signature DSMA events and public art programs and help promote local businesses and community engagement. Freeing up our volunteer board member time to do more outreach, to do more things that they should be doing would be really helpful. So having somebody in an office with, the means to be downtown and to meet with people and to walk the streets and talk to business owners. I just can't tell you how much, and I just don't have the bandwidth. I know we should be doing a lot more, but we just haven't been able to without help. And then continue with this strong relationship with the city that we have. And as I said before, I think that relationship is one of the most important things that the DSMA brings to the table is those connections. So that's all I have. And I just wanted to say in closing, I know 4 of you are leaving soon, and I really appreciate your service and the time I've spent with you. So thank you.
So I just want to go through the city process for this. The council would set the public hearing, and then a public notification of council adoption of the resolution attempt to modify the assessment will be published 7 days before the public hearing. Excuse my voice. Mailing notices for the public hearing to all the businesses, to all business owners will happen 7 days after adoption of this resolution. Options for council recommendation. You may accept the proposal and schedule a public hearing on November 7th for DSMA's proposed modification of assessments. You may suggest modifications to the proposed assessment rate and schedule a public hearing on November 7th, or you may decline to schedule a public hearing.
Thank you very much. Let me bring back to the council. Do we have questions? Start with Councilmember Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I have some questions about, well, this is probably going to be for Lou and maybe the consultant. But first off, I just want to say, again, we can't thank the volunteers of the DSMA enough for all the hard work that you guys do for our downtown. I'm curious, so let's say this passes and you get those extra funds and you get to hire the executive director back. What I'm interested in is how do we measure success? How do we make sure that those funds are used wisely and efficiently? And yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts on that are.
Well, every year we have to come before this council and have a show and tell. We talk about what we've done and what we intend to do, and proof's in the pudding. We have to show what we've done, and I think that we've gotten approval to continue on every year. We must be doing something right. We've been really careful with money and intend to keep it on that same track. The executive director's going to be a lot of money, but it's a necessary evil. There isn't an organization like ours running anywhere without paid staff to keep it going. And,
So I definitely agree with you that you need an executive director, but I guess what I would like to see is a little bit more, and just to take a step back, you do become before this council, and for me it's been 5 times now, and I think that we basically say the same thing, and now it looks like we're going to be taking a pretty big step in the right direction, I think. But what I would like to see is a little bit more rigor in the success metrics that we have. Not just we said we were going to do this and we did it, but more like, what does the public think about the cleanliness of our streets? What do the businesses feel like they are getting appropriate outreach? And I don't expect it to be like a complete turnaround the first year, but it would be, I think, to have a little bit more rigorous success metrics that are kind of outside the just talking about it, but more scientifically measuring it, could lead to some better outcomes. And that's something that I would like to see added to this, as is kind of, well, we're going to be measuring it each year to see if the money is spent wisely. And I'm sure it will be, but it's better to verify.
I think it's great. I think all this stuff takes time and energy, and with an executive director, I'm sure we can do surveys and assess where we're going and how we're doing. And, it's just, you understand.
Because I generally agree that you're doing a really good job with the cleanliness of downtown, but there are still a lot of residents, like we hear it the same as you hear it, that is their biggest concern about our downtown. So this is this kind of weird thing where the DSMA sort of works for the businesses, but the residents are also, have a say in it. They're a key stakeholder as well. So and you admitted yourself, and I agree, we're doing a good job, but we could do better. So it's like, how do we get to that better? How do we get that downtown where people are very proud to walk through? And I think that with these funds, we could probably get there, but we need to make sure that they're being spent wisely. So
I agree. We can always do better, Eric, and I think that. One thing comes to mind. I was having coffee with a council member just recently, and a woman stopped us, didn't know who we were, heard us talking about downtown, and she says, "Oh, it's disgusting down here. You guys need to power wash these streets or something. The sidewalks are awful." And we had just done it. And, I just was flabbergasted, and I thought, well, it's probably not as clean as your kitchen is, but, we're really trying hard. And I asked the woman, do you have any idea how much it costs to power wash the downtown? Just one time, all of downtown? And I'm not even sure I know the exact number, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, I believe. I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but so my point is, we're not going to make everybody happy all the time, and it's not going to be perfect. I think it's better than a lot of downtowns. I know anecdotally, I've probably said this to you guys before, I get customers in my shop every weekend that come down from the city, from San Francisco. They take Caltrain down and spend the day or the afternoon. They see a movie, they go out to lunch, they come to the bookstore, but they get out of San Francisco because it's disgusting. They can't handle it. They run away, and they come here because it's a nice place to be. So, we're always going to get, we're always going to get noise about it could be better, and I think we should always strive to do better, but, I don't know where power washing the streets once a week kind of money is going to come from,
That's all my questions for now. I have some comments.
Thank you very much. I see Councilmember Goethals.
Briefly, Lou, I want to thank you for your service. I want to acknowledge how much time and effort you put in, especially in these years during COVID, and especially during these years without an executive director. I think all of us know and appreciate the time and effort that you put in and the stakeholders that you represent. And you've already told us how it's really difficult to represent different points of view, and the residents also have a point of view. I just really want to acknowledge that and say thank you for your service. I think that the time is right. I think that now is the time for us to move forward, to accept the proposal, and to schedule this for a public hearing. So I'll wait for public comment, but that'll be my motion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Lee.
Yes, I had a question about the structure and how it was determined, or what was the basis of determining the difference between applying a fee based on the number of employees, FTE employees versus gross receipts. So it would just help me to have a little bit of background on why that distinction was made and what the basis of it was.
So, I think this whole thing started back before my time, the idea of making it more equitable, and then just because of inflationary, concerns, that it's just gotten to the point where it's harder and harder to do business with operating with the same amount of money, however many years later. Yeah, but I just was going to say, we've been round and round and round about trying to find a good way to do this, and what's fair and what's equitable, and we've had, I don't know, dozens of meetings with our consultant on the phone and in person over the years, trying to nail this down in as fair a way as possible, consulting with businesses and talking to people, and I'm just gonna say that and then pass you off to Sarah again and have her give her input.
Thank you, Lou. Just to reiterate, both the professional and service categories that are now being proposed to charge an assessment based on the number of employees were both completely flat categories. It was one rate regardless of the number of employees, regardless of gross receipts. Again, professional and service were both just a flat rate, similar to how we've structured financial. So you can kind of see that here where we have, thank you for changing the slide. So you can see that here that professional was at the $99.82 flat for every single business that fell into that category, and the same was service. And so we are proposing to look at the number of employees for those categories, really just in recognition of the size. And for those types of categories, gross receipts doesn't quite get you to something that's equitable, primarily because the type of business could have very different types of gross receipts, depending on what the service is or what the professional service might be. So again, really just trying to recognize the fact that there are some businesses that have a significant number of full-time equivalent employees, over 76. There's a couple that have more than 100, down to those much, much smaller businesses that are in that up to 5 employee category. We did look at how some other assessments in the area are structured as well, and many of them are structured similarly with these similar type categories, where professional and service based on the number of employees and retail based on gross receipts.
I see. And then my other question was the current structure rates are at the 50%. Is that correct? They're at the discounted COVID rate?
No, you revised them and put them back to the normal or the old rate. We went back to our...
Okay, so this is the pre-pandemic rate that's reflected?
Correct.
Okay, which hasn't been charged for the 2 years during COVID?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then another question was about the Zone 1 and Zone 2. When were those boundaries drawn? Was that back when...
The last time the boundaries were changed was in 2008, when additional areas were added in.
Okay, and then, I have one more question. So because Zone 2 pays a slightly lower amount overall, is that factored in because of sort of a lower service level from the DSMA? Is that accurate to say?
So, yes, I would say that's a big part of it. A lot of the trash that's generated and the messes that are generated in the downtown area are in the green area, the Zone 1 area, and there just aren't as many people, plain and simple. Mm-hmm. Where all the restaurants are and stuff gets dropped and stuff is dripping off trash cans and spills in front of the ice cream parlor, whatever. It's a lot more difficult to keep up with the Zone 1 area, and that's why.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I do have a follow-up question. So I guess my, I understand, from sort of the hierarchy of need and the wanting to make sure that the resources are allocated in a way that is meeting the highest needs. I was wondering, has there been discussion about distribution of services sort of based on the funding amounts? So looking at, comparatively, what are, as Councilmember Rodriguez was talking about, in terms of as we move forward in developing the potentially a strategic plan, and more concrete metrics for success, one of the possibilities and lines of analysis could be looking at how to ensure that there is equitable distribution of services in both zones that would be allocated, relative to the revenue generated.
Sure. We're always open to, putting out fires or redistributing, services where they're needed. And we have done that, and we even talked about, as some of this new development takes hold and starts to come to fruition, the possible need for, charging some of those areas, including them in Zone 1, because they're going to be more, included in the places that we need to pay special attention to. So I'm always open for that, and it seems like a reasonable thing to do. We're trying to be fair, and equitable, and doing the best that we can. And it's difficult.
Those are my questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Pappen.
So thank you so much, Mr. Cohen, for doing what you've done on a shoestring budget. And I'm very thankful that we got a lot of bang for our buck along the way. So I just want you to know that going forward. Mine is more of a mechanical question. How are we gauging full-time employees, and how will we verify that? Is it that you had more than 5 employees for 2 months out of the year, 8 months out of the year? Is it self-certified? Those are the kind of things that come to mind.
It's self-certified. They will file it as they're coming in for their business license and their annual renewals. Self-certified based on the business license and their annual renewals.
So that's how many employees they have at the time they renew?
That's right.
Okay, I got it. That was all. Pretty straightforward.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lou, very much. I speak with Lou downtown a lot because I get downtown just about every morning. And I do frequent the area there near the 3Bs and the B Street bookstore and other local businesses there. And I know that when I look around, in fact, I was one of the people there for a while who was complaining about the level of cleanliness. And I did see that we got some help down there, and I think the help is doing a great job for what it is. But I know that from time to time, the power washing on the sidewalks seems to be kind of behind. And so I have spoken with our city manager about that and made it known that I think we should be able to find a way, or we should try to find a way, to see if we can do more of that. I think that would help. That seems to be a large part of what the complaints are, is what the sidewalk. And now that we're walking on the street, on B Street between 1st and 3rd Avenues, those areas also can somehow get messy. Overall, though, I want to say thank you. I know that with little money, little help, without being an official paid position, you have volunteered and given a lot of yourself to the Downtown San Mateo Association, and I really appreciate that. And I know that you're always looking for the best outcome for not only the businesses, but also all of the downtown users, because without the customers, there's no point in having a downtown. So I think you'll get that. We all get that. I want to say that in looking at the areas and understanding what you just described, which I knew before, which was the level of service required in the different areas, I think the areas make sense. Okay, and when I look at the rates and considering the modern times and how much it costs to do anything, I think the rates make sense. I do agree that there should be some accounting each year when the DSMA comes back before the council to, justify its existence. Maybe, Jennifer, we could look for a way to actually delineate some kinds of goals or just some metrics, right, to make sure that we're keeping on track. But I know that ultimately, the way we're going to be able to tell is by how many complaints we get from the public, and depending on what they are, right? And that's where we really, the rubber meets the road. The proof is in that pudding. So that said, I'm approving of what I'm seeing and hearing, and I think we need to go to the public for some comments. How many public commenters?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I have 2 in-person speaker slips for this item. If anyone else would like to comment on it, if you could please bring up your speaker slip now. And online, if you could please, in the Zoom call, raise your hand now if you want to comment on this item. And we will take the in-person public speakers first. And then right now, I have 1 hand raised in the remote environment and 2 speaker slips here.
Okay, thank you. Let's go 3 minutes each for now.
Okay, so the 2 speakers here are Seamus Whitley, and then followed by Robert Anderson, and online our solo speaker is Jonathan Stone.
And then let's review the time after the in-house speakers speak when we see how many online speakers there are.
Hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Seamus Whitley. I'm the treasurer of the DSMA. I'm also a downtown worker in San Mateo. I wanted to thank you for any support that you can give us in this process. We're looking to move the DSMA forward in many ways, in both the equity and on bringing more to the downtown area itself. The one thing I did want to bring up as a speaker was, as a professional downtown worker, I'm one of the upstairs companies, and we have skated for a long time on the DSMA assessments. We paid under $100 for years and years and years. I don't know how long that goes back. And we realize that we have an impact in the downtown, and we agree that it's our responsibility to chip in and help with the equity of this process. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Robert Anderson.
Good evening, council members. My name is Robert Anderson. I have been a DSMA board member for 9 years, and 2 of those 9 years I was president of the DSMA. I had the good fortune of being, when I was president during my term, of working with an executive director. That made my job as a volunteer president a lot easier than it does for Lou. I can tell you, being involved in both sides of having a director versus not a director, we were able to do a lot more when we had a director. Lou outlined all the events that the DSMA put on every year. I won't repeat them because Lou already said in the PowerPoint, but what I can tell you is those events were very labor intensive to put them on. It was great having a full-time executive director to do that. I helped her. I probably put well in over 100 hours trying to get these events to successfully run. But we were able to put those events on because we had a full-time staff of a director and her assistant. I also went to Long Beach with her for a conference for downtown associations throughout the West Coast. And I can say, without exception, every downtown association, dozens and dozens, did not have an all-volunteer arm like we have now. They all were led by a paid director. I can also tell you to recruit and retain an executive director is expensive. I have been involved. We probably interviewed 18 different people before after over 6 months to get the last executive director. And again, the cost of living here was really hard and for her, and that's what reason she stopped. So right now it's all volunteer Army. My role right now is I check every day the voicemails and emails, and it takes maybe 30 to 40 minutes of my time every day getting back to people, but I feel that it's important for the DSMA to, even though we're all volunteers, to continually be professional and get back to people. So I do support the revised fee structure. I I think it's 20 years ago, the last downtown master plan referred to downtown San Mateo as the retail district. Well, I think we all know it's not the retail district. It definitely has changed, but the current fee structure hasn't to reflect those changes. So I do support it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. And moving to our virtual environment, this is the last chance to raise any hands if you'd like to speak. Seeing no other hands raised, our first and last speaker is Jonathan Stone. Please go ahead and unmute yourself, Jonathan.
Good evening, Mayor Bonilla and City of San Mateo council members. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Jonathan Stone with Prometheus Real Estate Group. We're a property owner and business owner based here in San Mateo. I'm calling in tonight following up on the letter we submitted in support of this matter. We strongly believe it is important for the DSMA to continue to be able to provide services that support business in the downtown and to ensure a strong, clean, and safe environment. The proposed fee structure ensures the viability of the DSMA and provides additional funding required for enhancement and expansion of services. We encourage you to move forward with the decision to update the fee structure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We are closed in public hearing.
Thank you. Public comment is closed. Bring it back to the council. I think I see Deputy Mayor Pappen would like to speak.
So I would like to see this moved forward. You don't need a vote from us tonight, is that right?
Yes, they do.
You do?
We need a vote to move it forward.
We need a vote to move forward, okay.
To adopt a resolution of intent.
Okay. To adopt a resolution of intent. So I would make that motion, and if others, I'll allow others to have a comment. I did want to make one pitch, and that is, as we talk about the cleanliness of downtown, I would like to see some of those new dollars go towards perhaps an anti-littering campaign. There's nothing like propaganda in front of you that says, don't drop that cup on the street or whatever it is. So as you perhaps acquire a new director, somebody could implement that program, and I'm making the pitch now.
Is it appropriate for me to make a comment?
I think that
I just
if it's extremely brief.
Short. So we had a little presentation at our board meeting about recycling from the county and the city. There isn't a single container downtown to put recyclable materials in downtown, and it's ridiculous. You're making all these restaurants pony up for these new containers, and we got no place to put them except a trash can. It infuriates me. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I know there are some very fancy trash cans that can be had. We saw some in DC that would knock your socks off. So perhaps we're looking at some of these new resources towards some fancy garbage cans as well. But anyway, I just wanted to make that pitch. I'm ready to make a motion, but I don't want to circumvent other council members.
Okay, on the motion, do we have comments?
Yeah. Many of us took the time to appreciate the work of the DSMA, and I jumped in with questions first. And I don't want to miss the chance to just acknowledge that the DSMA and those sitting in the room and many other folks who are involved, you are in survival mode yourselves, your own businesses, and you are putting on the life preservers on yourself, and to the businesses downtown. And I don't want anyone in this room to have too short of a memory that it's really to your credit, your work and the work of Jennifer Chen, that so many of our businesses did survive COVID. So as we have the conversation about what it would look like and what it would take to professionalize and bring dedicated resources that this organization desperately needs to do strategic planning, to provide the kind of quality of service and continuity that I think that our downtown really deserves. I just really want to appreciate the monumental effort that went into your own businesses sustaining and then going the additional 100,000 miles to support hundreds of businesses downtown to also survive. So that is that is your legacy. And if there's never been a stronger argument for a reinvestment in downtown, that's it. It's that we still have a thriving downtown, that we are building back at the pace that we are. And so for me, there's just, you have achieved so much with so little under the most tremendous constraints. And so I just really want to surface that explicitly in this conversation, and that's why I'll be supporting this change.
Thank you. Any other council member?
Yeah, I'll try to make this brief. I'm really excited about our downtown. I think that it's on the up and up right now, especially with our new pedestrian mall. And I think this is a obvious next step right here. I think that with more resources, with more coordination, it sounds like, with our city staff, and something that I guess I'll focus more on in our next meeting, I think with tangible success metrics that we are measuring each year, I think that we will be able to get our downtown to fulfill its vast potential. And so I'm really excited to support this evening.
Thank you very much. I have some comments if nobody else does.
Yeah, when you're ready, I'll make the motion.
I'd like to say that the people of San Mateo, the downtown itself, and the Downtown San Mateo Merchants Association deserve to be given the resources that they need, and the people need to have the downtown be restored to its previous glory somewhat. San Mateo has always been a nice, pleasant place that people loved. It's known up and down the peninsula for being, such a friendly place with so many great places to eat. And what comes with great places to eat is, unfortunately, the stains where the grease is being hauled out the door and the ice cream or the coffee spilled on the sidewalk. So these are things that are generating revenue here in our city. We need to take and get some of that revenue to stand the DSMA back up on its feet, give it the full authority. It deserves to have a full-time executive director and staff so it can really do its job. And we need to get some meaningful events happening in those spots that we have on B Street now. So with that said, then do we have a second for the motion?
Yes, I second.
Motion second. Clerk, could we please have the roll call?
Deputy Mayor
Yes.
Pappen.
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez.
Yes.
Councilmember Goethals.
Yes.
Councilmember Lee.
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on tonight's agenda is a public hearing, the 2022 Triennial Building Code Update and Adoption of Dangerous Building Code Ordinance Introduction. Hold on 1 minute. We have a request to take a 5-minute break, so we'll do that right now before we start this item. Thank you. And Okay. Okay, well, we're 8 seconds short of 5 minutes, but it looks like everybody's back, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. This is item 22, the dangerous building code and other stuff. We have a speaker here tonight.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and distinguished council members. My name is Michael Titsworth. Serving as building official, I'm the manager of the building division within the Community Development Department. The purpose of this report and presentation tonight is to introduce an ordinance adopting the updated 2022 version of the various building codes. Building standards codes are updated and adopted by reference with local amendments by amending various sections of the City of San Mateo Municipal Code, specifically Title 23, Buildings and Construction. Also in this presentation is adoption by reference, the 1997 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings, and adopting a resolution including the express findings that the proposed amendments are reasonably necessary based on local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions as required by California health and safety codes. The California Building Standards Code, also known as the State Code, is updated and published in its entirety every 3 years by order of the California Legislature, with supplemental amendments published in intervening years. The State Code includes model administrative, building, residential, electrical, mechanical, plumbing, existing building, and reference standard codes. The 2022 State Code becomes effective statewide on January 1, 2023, as published, unless local jurisdictions adopt more stringent amendments in accordance with state law. The last local triennial State Code update was in 2019 and took effect January 1, 2020. For this 2022 Triennial Code update, the City Council in a separate report will also review local amendments to the energy and green building codes known as the REACH codes. This update and presentation under consideration does not contain the additional REACH code amendments to the model energy and green building codes. Those will be presented later this evening in a separate report. The Triennial Building Code adoption proposal is like most code adoption years, as this building code update is essentially an amendment to reflect the most current version of the model codes, continuation of amendments adopted during previous code adoption cycles, and corrections to specific code sections. We are also adding in a new section, 23.30, as the dangerous building code per council direction in a study session held June 20th of this year. Previously adopted revisions needed to meet the 2019 State Code were not particularly burdensome to the building community. The proposed revisions to meet 2022 State Code are also expected to have a minimal impact. These residential code amendments are the continuation of amendments adopted during the previous code cycle adoption. Chapter 6, wall construction, is amended to provide greater seismic design requirements for shear walls. This amendment is consistent with the building code. There are 3 residential code appendices. AH is for patio covers, which relaxes certain provisions related to patio covers intended for recreational use not exceeding 12 feet in height. It helps streamline and expedite processing of these types of projects. Appendix AK is for sound transmission, which mitigates the sound transmission from other spaces and between dwelling units. This appendix aligns the residential code with the provisions of the building code. The last appendix is AX for Swimming Pool Safety Act, which provides enhanced safety measures for swimming pools and spas in residential settings and aligns the residential code with the provisions of the California Health and Safety Codes, the 2022 California Building Code, and the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. The following building code amendments are minor corrections and also continuation of amendments adopted during the previous code adoption cycles. Chapter 15 is roof assemblies, which is amended to provide greater fire resistance of roof coverings in all construction types. Chapter 17, Special Inspections, is amended to enhance regional consistency in the application and enforcement of the building code for isolated spread footings. Chapter 19, Concrete, and Chapter 23, Wood, are amended to provide greater seismic design requirements in isolated footings and shear walls. Section 3109 is amended in this cycle to include 3109 in its entirety. This allows enhanced regional consistency in the application and enforcement of building code regarding the construction of swimming pools and spas, requiring compliance with the ISPSC, otherwise known as the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code. This enhances safety protection of pool and spa users. There's one appendix proposal, which is Appendix G for flood-resistant construction. This is needed to ensure compliance with FEMA requirements with construction features such as raised floors and drainage vents. The Dangerous Building Code. On June 20th this year, a study session was held to evaluate penalties associated with the city's relocation from unsafe buildings ordinance and how penalties have been used. This will be addressed in the next council agenda item presentation. Part of the resulting direction from City Council was for staff to draft an ordinance to adopt Dangerous Building Code, or the DBC, which was last published as the 1997 Uniform Code for the Abatement of Dangerous Buildings. The 1997 Uniform Code is an invaluable tool assisting in the identification, posting, notification, and appeal process for dangerous buildings and is utilized by multiple jurisdictions within the region. Staff recommends adoption of the DBC in Title 23 Buildings and Construction as a new Chapter 23.30 Dangerous Building Code. Based on the information provided, staff recommends adopting the 2022 California Building Standards Code by reference with the local amendments and appendices, the Dangerous Building Code, and the resolution adopting express findings that amendments to the 2022 state codes are reasonably necessary based on local climatic, geological, or topographical conditions. That concludes this presentation. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. Council members, do we have questions? Okay, I see none. Then I'm going to go ahead and go to the public. Do we have public comments?
In-house on this item, I do not have any speaker slips. If you intend to offer public comment on this item, please bring up your yellow slip to me now. And for the virtual attendees on Zoom, please raise your hand now if you would like to comment on this item. I will give you a few seconds to do that. At this point in time, it appears we do not have any public comment.
And we're going to go ahead and close the public comment period, and we're going to bring it back to the council for any final comments, for a motion. Commenters? Okay, I see none. I would like to make some comments. I was very happy to see the word safety mentioned so many times. Safety is in our built environment of ultimate and extreme importance because in the event of an earthquake, a fire, a flood, the house can become an entrapment, a place where people are trapped and die. So I really appreciate the fact that we're paying so much close attention, that we have a professional here working on our behalf, making sure that we're going to be safe as here in the city of San Mateo. If heaven forbid, any of these bad events should happen here. As we all know, by watching the news, we've been fairly lucky here, but the world is a dangerous place, and things are changing out there. So I say thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
We're going to move to adopt tonight.
Yeah, to adopt to introduce an ordinance.
I'll move to introduce the ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Madam Clerk?
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gotholz?
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next will be item 23, appeal of administrative citation amendments, ordinance introduction. We have Christina Horsberger, the Director of Community Development, to speak on this.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Bonilla and council members. I'm Christina Horsberger, Community Development Department Director. Before you at this time is an ordinance introduction, the purpose of which is to create a different appeal structure for our technical building codes and our administrative citations procedures. This item came before you at the June 20th, 2022 study session that was mentioned in the previous item. The purpose of that item was to look at our penalty structure for repeat offenders of our tenant relocation ordinance. And as we were conducting that evaluation, we did notice that we were not utilizing our penalties to their fullest advantage, partly because of the way that our appeal structure was codified. And so what we did is we looked at that and looked at our codes and found that a hearing officer who would be a subject matter expert in the technical codes would provide us the opportunity to more effectively utilize our administration or our administrative citation procedures. So we were directed to arrange for that and make those amendments to our municipal code, which we did. The draft is before you tonight, and we are recommending adoption, after which we would proceed with an RFP to bring on a few hearing officers that we could have on call as needed. So that concludes my presentation. Here for questions.
Thank you very much for that brief presentation. Council, any questions? Seeing none from the council, we will go to the public comment.
I have no speaker slips in here for this item, item number 23. Those in the Zoom environment, please raise your hand. That's at this time if you would like to comment on item number 23, the appeal of administrative citation. I'll give you another few seconds to raise your hand. Mr. Mayor, we have no public comment on this item.
Thank you very much. In that case, then we'll bring it back. We'll close the public comment period. We'll bring it back to the council for any comments and a motion. Comments? So we have comments.
Sure. I'm really happy to see this come before us, and this is, for me, a really good example of good governance and responsiveness to the community. So I will be supporting this, and I would like to make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's a motion and a second.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
Yes.
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Next, we're going to have item 24, the final item on tonight's agenda. Sustainability-related amendments to the 2022 California Building Standards Code, ordinance introduction.
All right. Good evening, City Council members and members of the public. My name is Andrea Chow. I'm the Sustainability Analyst with the City of San Mateo. The goal of my presentation is to introduce an ordinance to adopt REACH codes for the 2022 building code cycle. The California Building Standards Code is updated every 3 years, and every local jurisdiction in California is required to adopt the Building Standards Code. The code has a total of 12 parts, and the Green Building Code, also known as CalGreen, is specifically critical to sustainability. Cities have the option to adopt REACH codes, which are local amendments to the building code that would reach above and beyond state requirements to require more sustainable design. The proposed REACH codes would amend the next building code cycle, which starts January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2025. REACH codes are an important strategy to addressing greenhouse gas emissions from the building and transportation sectors. This approach is in the city's climate action plan and helps the city work toward the council priority of addressing decarbonization in existing buildings. The city's current REACH codes will expire December 31st of this year as the current code cycle comes to a close, so it is critical that new REACH codes be adopted. The city has a lot of support in the development and adoption of building REACH codes. Peninsula Clean Energy, or PCE, is a joint powers agency established in 2016 to provide clean electricity and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our community. In the previous code cycle, PCE supported jurisdictions in the adoption of REACH codes, and this year, PCE is leading the newly formed Bay Area REACH codes group that includes East Bay Clean Energy and Silicon Valley Clean Energy, and they are providing the same type of support to local governments. Throughout this presentation, I will reference the Bay Area REACH codes group that has been spearheaded by PCE. And I'd also like to take this moment to introduce Blake Hershaft, Programs Manager with PCE, and Jose Garcia from the consulting firm TRC, who have joined our meeting via Zoom to be available for any technical questions. And then very briefly, bolstering EV charging is an important priority because transportation accounts for 50% of our community emissions, and building electrification, which refers to the transition from gas equipment to electric equipment for space and water heating, clothes drying, cooking, and more. And then phasing out the use of fossil gas, also known as natural gas, is extremely important because fossil gas is a fossil fuel, mainly comprised of methane, and electricity that is provided by PCE is virtually carbon-free. So the proposed REACH codes and more background on this topic were discussed in depth at the September 19th City Council study session. And these next slides summarize the proposed REACH code requirements. Installing EV infrastructure in new construction is significantly cost-saving compared to retrofitting existing buildings. This slide shows Table 1 from the staff report, summarizing the Bay Area REACH Codes model code that requires enhanced EV charging requirements for every building type. At the September 19th study session, the City Council discussed the Bay Area REACH Codes model code options for multifamily buildings and recommended the updated model code option, which requires 15% level 2 EVCS and 85% level 2 ready low power. And these requirements are reflected in the draft ordinance. At the September 19th study session, Council directed staff to develop an ordinance in line with the Bay Area REACH Codes model ordinance. However, since that meeting, the all-electric non-residential cost-effectiveness study demonstrated that it is cost-effective to require hotel and motel laundry be electric, so PCE has since revised their model code. PCE has since removed the exception for hotel and motel laundry from the model code. So, per council's direction, the draft ordinance includes a provision allowing buildings with biotech use to apply for an exception to use fossil gas for space conditioning in laboratory areas. So what staff recommends is adoption of the draft ordinance based on the most recently updated Bay Area REACH Codes model code that does not include an exception for hotel and motel laundry specifically, to be consistent with PCE's recommendation, and then still include the exception for buildings with biotech use as discussed at that study session. Currently, the city does not have any REACH codes in place for existing buildings. The proposed REACH codes you see on the table are all enforced at the time of permit application and issuance, and they are triggered when someone is coming to the city to get a permit for a specific building remodel project. The measures all focus on reducing the use of fossil gas by making homeowners either electric ready for future electric appliances or requiring electric equipment be installed. PCE provided technical support to the city by drafting the ordinance language specifically to meet San Mateo's needs and meet City Council's direction. So these 5 measures are requiring panel replacement and panel upgrade projects to include panel capacity and breaker space for future electric equipment. Number 2 is requiring all residential kitchen and laundry renovations include an installation of an outlet for the future use of electric appliances. Number 3 requires installation of heat pump air conditioning when new air conditioning is installed or replaced in conjunction with a furnace replacement. Number 4 prohibits the extension of fuel gas infrastructure into the backyard for uses such as fire pits, grills, and pools. And then number 5 requires heat pump installation during addition and alteration projects that include water heater replacement. There have been some emails come in asking for revisions to the proposed REACH codes. So this slide provides information to help inform council specifically related to Measure 3 that impacts HVAC. Generally, there are a few types of HVAC projects that occur. One where a homeowner opts to replace their gas furnace if they have one. This type of project typically costs between $4,000 and $6,000. There are also projects where property owners install an AC only, and they do not touch their gas furnace. This project ranges from $15,000 to $18,000, and there are roughly 60 AC permits per year. A subset of those projects are AC projects and gas furnace replacements. Those are about 30 projects per year, and this type of project costs between $18,000 and $21,000. So as proposed by staff, the REACH code requirement applies to gas furnace and AC projects, and at that time requires a heat pump be installed. This is a roughly cost-neutral measure because heat pump HVAC projects are estimated to cost $18,000 to $21,000. The advocacy group, the San Mateo Climate Action Team, has 2 requests. One, that remodels that include a water heater replacement also include a heat pump HVAC installation. One major challenge with this approach is if a property owner is not intending to install an air conditioner. So their new $5,000 gas furnace project would then be increased to a roughly $20,000 heat pump project if they were not intending to install AC. This is a very high cost differential, and therefore staff has concerns about this requirement, and therefore recommends at this time focusing on air conditioners in the near term. The advocacy group's second proposal is to expand on Measure 3 to impact all AC projects. So that's the second line in the table. If a property owner was intending to keep their gas furnace and only add AC, a heat pump HVAC project could add between $500 or as much as $3,000 to their project cost. City Council could choose to modify the REACH code ordinance to include this set of projects. As written in the ordinance, the homeowner would not have to remove the gas furnace. The proposed REACH code ordinance allows for the homeowner either to remove or reconfigure the gas furnace as supplemental heat. In some exciting news today, Peninsula Clean Energy announced rebate funding for up to $3,500 for a heat pump HVAC system and $3,000 for heat pump water heaters. Residents can receive additional rebate funding if you utilize a Bay Run contractor and receive Bay Run rebates. There are also tax credits available for heat pumps. So all of these rebates and tax incentives can help make electrification more cost-effective in San Mateo. Although there are rebates in place, rebate funding availability is never a guarantee, but rebates and incentives are critically important in advancing decarbonization in our community, along with REACH code policy. In April and July, staff presented REACH code information to the Sustainability and Infrastructure Commission. In August, staff focused on community outreach, and in September, staff presented a detailed presentation at the City Council study session. Today, I'm here to introduce an ordinance that includes all of the City Council's recommendations. And then following the adoption of the ordinance in November, staff will file the REACH codes with the Building Standards Commission. And again, all of the proposed REACH codes would go into effect with the 2022 building code, which would be January 1, 2023. In the immediate term, staff have focused on working with PCE on reach codes to leverage the building code cycle. In line with the City Council priority to decarbonize existing buildings, staff will develop the strategic roadmap to decarbonize our community. Work on this effort is scheduled after staff completes reach code adoption. Staff plans to contract with the technical consultant to evaluate the city's building stock and analyze other building decarbonization approaches. This includes PCE's existing building decarbonization ordinance with a target date of January 1, 2025 for electric appliance replacements. And this is my last slide showing the recommendation before you tonight to introduce an ordinance. Thank you.
Sticky switch here sometimes. Thank you very much. Great presentation. I would like to take this moment to seize on what you mentioned during your presentation, which was that PCE had today come out with a big announcement about rebates being made available by PCE of several different types, including the $10,000 up to 10-year 0% interest loan that's available to pay on your bill monthly if you need that, if that's a desirable thing, but also the other rebates. And I understand, is Mr. Hershaft available on the Zoom call tonight?
Yes.
Could we ask Mr. Hershaft to please show us exactly what PCE is announcing today and describe some of what it means, please? Greetings, Mr. Hershaft.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Blake Hershaft. I'm the Building Electrifications Programs Manager for Peninsula Clean Energy. Really excited to see this reach code in front of the city of San Mateo today and appreciate your leadership. Today, we're very excited to increase our incentive amounts and add certain appliances that will incentivize to electrify within Peninsula Clean Energy territory. You had first mentioned the 0% loan program. If you electrify one of your appliances, we'll provide up to $10,000 of 0% financing that you can pay on your utility bill over 10 years. So it's not an extra bill you have to pay for. In addition, we have increased our heat pump water heater rebate from $1,000 to $3,000. The goal there is that along with the Bay Rent rebate, it will be cost neutral to electrify at the time of replacement when you are replacing your gas tank water heater, and less expensive if you're replacing a gas tankless water heater. Heat pump HVAC, the $3,500 rebate is put out there to make it cost neutral or to save you money if you're installing an air conditioner, to instead make it a heat pump. And then we have continuing electric panel upgrade incentive of $1,500. And we also have additional incentives available for lower income customers on CARE or FARA rate programs. Last thing, for a limited time, there's an additional $500 incentive available as we launch the program. Does that help? Does that meet the
that
needs?
helps a lot, Mr. Hershaft. Thank you very much. I
Thank
think
you.
that was great. We're now going to, thank you for your presentation, Andrea. Bring it to the council for any questions we may have. Councilmember Goethals? No?
Hi, Andrea. Thank you so much. I had a question about the date of implementation and then how we would treat permits in progress. So if there was a permit application that was submitted prior to the date of effect, would which rules would apply? Like we've in previous conversations when we've changed code, we have had some allowance for those projects so that we're not changing the goalpost or the rules midstream. And I'm wondering if that's been a consideration in our implementation process.
The building code is applied when that building permit is issued. So,
okay, and then
maybe you're talking about planning applications, which
Oh, maybe I'm talking about planning application. So I guess I just wanted to have assurance or clarification that if there is a change and how that would impact, a homeowner, what rules would apply at what time period given our target adoption date.
So for the existing building home remodel measures, if you are issued a building permit already, then your project is unaffected. For projects that are going to be issued building permits moving forward after January 1, 2023, that's when these requirements would apply.
Okay. And so I guess my question would be if there could be some consideration for flexibility if you have an application in place that is sort of midstream based on this, sometimes applications can take a while, right?
I think it depends on the type of project. I'm now realizing I think it would be helpful to have CDD to provide some more clarity on that topic, but I'm thinking through the existing building measures. So if you were issued a permit for a panel upgrade, then you would comply with the building code cycle you were in. And then if you were looking to upgrade your panel starting January 1, 2023, you'd have to comply with the REACH code requirements.
Right, and I guess what I'm honing in on is that window from application to actually building permit issuance, that sometimes that window can take a while. And if somebody's caught in between that period of the code changing, that could be a challenge.
So I think it depends on the REACH code requirement, but I will speak to the fact that we work closely with project applicants to notify them of upcoming requirements. So this information has been public on our website. I have met with our different building division and planning division team members so that they can communicate the upcoming changes. That's why sometimes we see a rush of permit applications before the close of a code cycle. So they are aware of the changes that are upcoming. I hope that
it does, I guess, and maybe that already addresses the concern, but I would be interested in exploring some leniency also, if there is a mechanism to.
I'm sorry, exploring some what?
Leniency.
Oh.
So, for those, even if it's just sort of like an edge case, marginal, situation that wouldn't apply broadly, but that if there are people that are caught in some sort of transition period, that we could be flexible.
If I can chime in here briefly. So you may be thinking of, for example, zoning code amendments, where often the city will perhaps allow projects that are in the pipeline to be processed under the previous zoning code provisions rather than an upcoming zoning code section that would then go into effect. The challenge with somehow exempting a class of projects for the building code is that the new building code goes into effect on January 1st. So that's under state law. So it's a little more challenging to create a local process that creates an exception for new requirements that apply across the board from the state. And as Andrea mentioned, typically, developers are acutely aware of when the new building code adoption cycle will go into effect, which is why, as she stated, those applicants will get their applications in, submit for building permits during the the prior building code adoption period, or building code cycle.
Okay, then I've asked and it's been answered. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to go to public comment.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask if you're on the Zoom call to please raise your hand if you're intending to offer public comment. And is there anyone else in the room who has not given me a yellow speaker slip to be able to offer public comment? If you could fill that out right away and get that to me right now, that'd be great. They're right up here. So In the room right now, Mr. Mayor, we were going to have 8 speakers.
Okay.
And on the Zoom call, we have, it's still filling out. I'm going to let that finish. Please raise your hand now on the Zoom call. At this time, it's looking like we have 20 public speakers on the Zoom call. I'm going to say going once, going twice to raise your hand. Okay, going 3 times. We are closing the public comment period on the Zoom call with 21 speakers. The last speaker will be Tasso Zografis. And here in person, I think we now have 9 public
That's 30 speakers total. Let's go with 1 minute each, okay?
Okay, we're going to do 1 minute each. The first speaker to come up in person, if I could go ahead and set up my timer, is Sean Fahrenbrook. And following Sean will be Harry Moody, and following Harry will be Belinda Schlober. And if you could go ahead and line up over here so we're ready to go.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sean Fahrenbrook. I'm a District 1 resident. So I'm aware of the REACH codes that I believe you're voting on them tonight, and I'm not crazy about them, but I can live with them. That's not a horrible thing to me. Part of why I'm here tonight is get some clarification on a Daily Journal article that was published on October 6th. I've emailed you all the questions in advance along with all the candidates, so I believe you're aware of what I'm going to ask. But for the public, to give some background here, we're here to look at these REACH codes tonight. And in addition to this, this article would suggest that even though this ink isn't even put to paper yet, there's some upcoming things that are on the council's mind. I'm aware at the state of California that the 2030, there's some plans on the table by CARB to limit the replacement of natural gas appliances, and that's in 2030. But if I'm reading the article correctly, it looks like we're trying to advance this to 2025. And it also looks, from what this Daily Journal is saying, is that by 2030, we're looking for full electrification. This is not replacement of failing, it's just replacement. So I would really like some clarification on, first of all, if this article is accurate. And secondly, there was 2 specific questions that I and the public would like is for you to answer.
Yeah, I have the questions here. Mr. Fahrenbrook, you're over time, so thank you very much. And we will get around to those questions.
Harry Moody. And following Harry is Belinda. And if you can be prepared to speak, and following Belinda is Sue.
Thank you very much. I want to say that I support the staff's proposal for all-electric construction, and I'm very impressed with what I heard from that. I also want to request that the current proposal for existing buildings be strengthened, and the San Mateo Climate Action Team has suggested some specific actions by email. The last point I want to say that I appreciate very much, I really mean this, the city's commitment to study and develop within the next 3 to 6 months complete electrification to take effect January 1st. This is really impressive, and what we heard tonight about the PCE, I'm just overwhelmed. And I guess the last thing I want to say is that the city has received already assurance, I think, from both PCE and PG&E that the electrical grid can handle this. We're now in a new world, and I'm delighted that I live in San Mateo, can be a leader for this whole thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Belinda, followed by Sue Blockstein, and then Michelle Hudson. Belinda, yeah.
Hi, Mr. Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Belinda Klober, and I support the REACH codes that you currently have in place. I think you have done a wonderful job with all this under very difficult circumstances. I do want to say this, though. Climate change poses the greatest threat to those least responsible for it, including low-income and disadvantaged populations, women, racial minorities, marginalized ethnic groups, and the elderly. To make matters worse, these groups are already vulnerable to deep-rooted challenges. And conversely, those who have contributed the most to climate change have much better capacity to protect themselves from its impacts. I think it's incumbent on the city to do all we can to help people who have hardships be able to afford a heat pump so they have air conditioning during heat waves, to not be left out of this transition that is a result of climate change and our efforts to control it. I think my time is up. Yeah. Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Thank you.
I used the wrong timer. Sorry about that. Sue Blockstein, followed by Michelle Hudson, and then Robert Whitehair.
Good evening. I support the staff's proposal for the all-electric new construction and the 5 measures for remodels of existing residential buildings. I would also like to see the current proposal for existing buildings to be strengthened to include the San Mateo Climate Action Team's suggested responses that were discussed earlier. The staff's current proposal reach codes are necessary and they're doable. They make sense. We are running out of time. We need to reduce methane gas emissions to save our planet. I also want to say that my husband's a general contractor. He recently got a quote for replacing a furnace, and even without the rebates, it was cheaper to go electric than to do the gas. And this is something that everybody should be thinking about, and I'm really excited and proud that San Mateo is working towards electrifying and reducing greenhouse gases. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Michelle Hudson, followed by Robert Whitehair. Go ahead, Michelle.
Thank you. My name is Michelle Hudson. I'm a longtime resident of San Mateo, and I'm here because I'm deeply concerned about the climate crisis. In terms of the current REACH Codes proposal, I support the proposal for all electric new construction and remodels of existing residential buildings. I also support the San Mateo Climate Action Team's recommendations for strengthening the current proposal applicable to remodels. The current proposal and voluntary electrification is now cost neutral, thanks to recent legislative developments and local rebates. With the Inflation Reduction Act, the typical San Mateo family can replace their gas appliances with electric models at a cost similar to or lower than new gas appliances. An economic hardship exemption is also built into the proposed REACH code. In addition, PCE and PG&E have said that the grid can handle increased electrification from REACH codes. For these reasons, I urge the City Council to approve the current REACH code proposal for new construction and remodels. I also urge our City Council to take a leadership role in addressing concerns that get raised with respect to electrification. Thank you.
Time up. Thank you.
Next speaker is Robert Whitehair, followed by Thomas Weissmuller, and then Brian Thurston.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. Speaking on behalf of the San Mateo Climate Action Team and the almost 450 signatories on our petition, we support staff's proposal for all electric new construction and the 5 measures before you tonight for remodels of existing residential buildings. We do request, as noted, that the existing residential building remodels proposal be strengthened to include the San Mateo Climate Action Team's suggested revisions. Gas water heaters and gas furnaces should be replaced during remodels. If any of you have ever been through a remodel like I have, they're messy, they take time, and I hate to see with the IRA and the other funds available for somebody to have to turn around and remodel their house once again. So I think that's a reason why we should do it at the same time. With the Inflation Reduction Act, the grants announced today by PCE, the cost of electrifying the typical San Mateo home will be cost neutral compared to gas. For some, the cost of electrifying their home will be less than gas. Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. And next speaker is Brian Thurston. Oh, no, I'm sorry, Thomas Weissmuller. I apologize. That was my fault.
I'm concerned about limiting the use of gas and alternative use of energy. We need to have alternative uses of energy because of power outages and things like that. I like to be able to take a shower and cook my meal. I have gas appliances in my home, and they're working good. I have two questions. Is there anything in this ordinance that would prohibit us from replacing these gas appliances with gas appliances at any time in the future? My second question is, if we do a major renovation, would we be able to have gas appliances? I think we should have the choice of making this decision, allow the marketplace to determine what is best. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is now Brian Thurston, followed by Rafael Reyes.
Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you. I just wanted to start by strongly complimenting the staff for recognizing the different situation that may exist with a gas furnace only type installation. I'm a long-time resident of San Mateo. We have a very mild climate. I don't like the idea of using power to cool a house during summer days, and there's really no need to for many of us. So anyhow, thank you for recognizing that gas furnace situations are quite different. I have reservations about requiring people to put in heat pumps for replacing or some sort of heating system different from gas for water heaters, but I understand that that can be a more reasonable situation. I'll just briefly say, regardless of what some people are saying about the electric grid, Governor Newsom himself recognized there are severe problems coming up, delayed the shutdown of Diablo Canyon because of fear of significant shortfalls of power coming up in a couple of years, and also the fact that it would cause greater reliance on fossil fuels. Natural gas is a very efficient source of heat in our homes and for water heating, and I would encourage its continuing use in at least retrofit situations or ongoing use situations. Thank you very much for the minute.
Thank you. And last speaker in the House is Rafael Reyes.
Honorable Mayor and Council members, Rafael Reyes, Director of Energy Programs for Peninsula Clean Energy, speaking on behalf of Peninsula Clean Energy. I just wanted to note some additional points of information which may be of interest to the Council and members of the public. One is the Inflation Reduction Act. The tax credits do come into effect in January. That's an additional $2,000 tax credit. And the PCE's current steps with regards to supporting electrification, what you heard today is just the beginning of a process that will be a much broader set of supports for people moving in this direction. We're planning additional online supports, a whole one-stop shop concept, phone hotline for customers to get technical assistance, and other sources of assistance that we will be developing over the course of the coming year. And I want to finally flag a couple items. There's been concern with regards to grid readiness. We have modeled the effect of electrification, and it's less than 1% of our existing load looking through 2025 and for a number of years beyond that. So it's really de minimis relative to the overall load of the grid. So thank you very much for considering these measures.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll now move to our Zoom attendees. And we had mentioned that we were going to take 21 speakers. The last speaker is Tasso Sografis. And the first speaker will be Pam Riddlemeyer. Pam, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council members and staff. I support staff's proposal for an all-electric new building code and for the 5 measures of remodels for existing buildings. With local, state, and federal incentives, these are cost neutral at this point, but they will be in just a few months starting next year. I appreciate the city's commitment to take the next 3 to 6 months to further study how to implement a full REACH code starting 2025. I understand that this does take some study and some time, so I appreciate that you have committed to doing that. I'd also like to add that I understand that the suggestion by the Climate Action Team to add AC to the gas furnace remodels it sounds like quite a stretch on the onset. But at this point, we're experiencing extreme heat wave events like never before. And some of these heat events are lasting for 10 days or more during the summers. So I think the city, I would like to see the city think deeply about how the AC element could be added into the remodel measures So please take the time for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ellen Jacobs Dooley. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff. My name is Ellen Dooley, and I actually am a resident of San Carlos. And the reason I'm speaking tonight is because we in other cities actually look to San Mateo for your leadership on this issue. Your decision on this matter doesn't end at your borders. They have a wide-reaching effect in the county and even other parts of the state. None of us operates in a silo when it comes to climate change. With buildings contributing between 30 to 40% of the emissions, you have an opportunity and responsibility to significantly reduce them. And so by phasing out gas-fueled equipment and appliances, we actually will be making a very large impact on those emissions. And besides the reduction, you also serve residents by adopting policies that best prepares them for having the equipment and appliances in their homes that improves the air quality and energy efficiency. These changes are inevitable and necessary, and by delaying this requirement can cause homeowners to invest in appliances that will become obsolete and cost them more money in the long run. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Marty Jordan.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. So good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Marty Jordan. I'm a homeowner and I've lived in San Mateo for 25 years. And like all the others that have been speaking on behalf of the current REACH codes, I'm in support of those and also encourage you to support the San Mateo Climate Actions Team's suggested revisions. I also wanted to comment on the concerns that people have been raising on Nextdoor related to the cost of electrifying one's home. Based on many events that I have attended on this topic, I have come to understand that first and foremost, I will not have to upgrade my electrical panel. If I choose my appliances wisely, I can easily stay within my existing 100 amp panel. Anyway, I'm running out of time. So I just encourage you to move forward with this and appreciate that San Mateo is taking the lead.
Thank you. The next speaker is Mike Martin.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Martin. I'm on the clinical faculty of the University of California, San Francisco. Indoor air pollution from gas stoves and furnaces is similar to secondhand smoke. We once thought that secondhand smoke was harmless and people could smoke on airplanes, in workplaces, in bars, restaurants, even hospitals. Over time, we realized the significant adverse effects of secondhand smoke, and we put restrictions in place. In the same way, it's now time to realize that indoor air pollution from gas stoves and furnaces causes real health problems. It's time to put significant restrictions in place on gas stoves and furnaces, the same way we did with secondhand smoke. Gas stoves and furnaces produce a huge amount of air pollution, including nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, particulate matters. These cause real health problems. Children who live in homes with gas stoves have a 42% increase in asthma. And chronic exposure to particulate matter damages the respiratory system. I strongly encourage you.
Your time is up, Mr. Martin.
For significant restrictions.
Thank you. Next speaker is Anjali Mishra.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. My name's Anjali. I'm 15, and I'm a high school student at the Nueva School in San Mateo. Like everyone else, I support the staff's measure, but it needs to be stronger. As a young person, myself and my generation, we are the ones that are going to have to live with the consequences of climate change, which means we cannot waste time, and we can only pass efficient and impactful policy. Particularly since the council has made a goal to decarbonize, the measures proposed now are never going to let you reach this goal. I understand that it can be difficult and scary to pass something that seems so strong, but there is absolutely no benefit in delaying. The primary fear of the advocates' proposition is cost. However, if the council just takes a leadership role in communicating to the community about funding from the Inflation Reduction Act, which could give single San Mateo families $25,000, could really make this a more affordable option for people. There's no reason why a city like San Mateo can't support its constituents in their transition to electric and be a leader in the Bay Area. So I hope the council will listen and help save the future of my generation. Thanks.
Thank you. Next speaker is Gary T.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Dr. Gary Trott, and I'm a concerned San Mateo citizen. I'm strongly in favor of beginning a transition away from fossil fuels, especially natural gas, towards an all-electric building infrastructure, both residential and commercial. So I am in support of the staff's recommendations, plus more, if possible, with respect to the REACH codes. We all got into this mess collectively together, so it will take collectively everyone to act to undo the effects of greenhouse gas emissions, which means any transition must be led by government leaders, such as yourselves, through REACH codes or other processes. Also, a transition this large will take some time, measured in years, but we got to begin now, or the climate disaster consequences will be even more disastrous. So I strongly urge the City Council to continue making the best information sources available to the public and begin the implementation of REACH codes and more across the years to change the building infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is John McKenna.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share with you my thoughts, hopes, and very real concerns. I want to reiterate previous speakers' support for staff's current proposal, the request to strengthen the code, and the city's commitment to develop an ordinance based on the Bay Area REACH Code Group's full model ordinance with electric replacement to take effect January 1st, 2025, which includes provisions for economic hardship and technical infeasibility. Fossil gas is fraught with terrible environmental and health impacts from extraction to transport to usage. It leaks every step of the way, even in the home when gas appliances are not in use, and it warms the planet 80 times more than CO2. Moreover, studies have shown that children in homes with gas appliances have a 40% greater chance of experiencing asthma. We need to eliminate its use. New electric appliances are better, more efficient, better for our health, and now very cost effective. A recent study in Scientific American exposes a false social reality and a belief that merely 40% of the population supports major climate mitigation.
Thank you, Mr.
fact,
McKenna.
a recent Yale poll, sorry?
Thank you. That's your time.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ryan Mochimi.
Good evening, San Mateo City Council, Honorable Mayor Bonilla. My name is Ryan Mochimi, and I'm calling in to support the proposed ordinance and also encourage adoption of the climate action team's requested ordinances. And regardless of the decision made today, I think an equitable move towards progress is things like the Inflation Reduction Act that are providing additional tax credits in addition to Peninsula Clean Energy rebates, making it more financially feasible for these needed reforms to be made, because the cost of doing nothing is worse than the cost of making this transition, the financial cost of that. I also have one point to make about the parking, the EV charging station requirements. I would add language saying that those requirements would apply only when parking is voluntarily offered in the development or planned in the development, so as to not needlessly make the cost of housing more expensive. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Ines Peugeot.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Ines Pajot, and I'm a high schooler in San Mateo, and I'm 15. As a youth, I'm really concerned about the impacts of climate change on my future. I think it's really important for San Mateo to endorse all electric buildings because it's going to mark the transition to a completely sustainable form of energy and electric appliances, etc. And this is a transition that we're going to have to make at one point or another, because climate change isn't something which is going away anytime soon. So the sooner the better, so that we can mitigate the harmful impacts of climate change. So I endorse this plan, but I think we can always improve it. I think you should take some of the suggestions of the Youth San Mateo action team, especially the ones about electrifying ACs, because a lot of people actually use their ACs, especially in the summer, because it gets really hot in California. So it's something that makes a difference. And if the main concern of the council is cost, gas prices are increasing, and gas takes a lot of energy and a lot of cost to produce. So I think it's just an investment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ricky McLashin.
Hi,
the speakers tonight have been excellent, and the panel, the City Council, I appreciate your receptivity to making these changes, and I urge you to take more measures than staff is recommending. When I hear dates like 2030 for things to happen, and then I hear the voices of these young people, it just makes me heartsick. We need to do everything possible we can do it, and do it now. And Ellen Dooley's comments about the effect of San Mateo's leadership are very powerful to me. And I am proud to be from San Mateo, and proud that we are considering measures that would put us out front and show the urgency of this and how we understand it. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is 350 Silicon Valley.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Whedon, actually, and I'm from Los Altos. Why am I here? I became a grandmother for the first time yesterday. I have a new granddaughter. I'm thrilled, but I'm also very worried about her future, and I know you care about the future of your children, and you can do something about it. In case I run out of time, I want to address two issues up front: cost of electrification and grid stability. Opponents will say electrification is too expensive and the grid will not be able to handle it. Hogwash! This is either lack of knowledge, misinformation, or unfortunately disinformation. I think you heard from other speakers not only about the cost savings from electrification, but also incentives from the government, local resources, and ongoing energy savings. So why am I here in Los Altos as an ugly opposition to our REACH code? In fact, opposers launched a disinformation campaign that is ugly and reprehensible. I'm asking you to make your decisions based on facts, not on lack of information, disinformation, and especially not disinformation campaigns. Take the leadership role, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Michelle Mandel.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Dear Mayor and council members, I'm here speaking tonight because I'm concerned about the climate, as others have said. I support the staff's proposal for all electric new construction and the 5 measures for remodels of existing residential buildings. And I'd also like to see strengthened based on the San Mateo Climate Action Team's recommendations. I know there's concern about the cost of electrification, but electrification upgrades are cost neutral and sometimes even cheaper than a gas alternative due to the rebates and tax credits provided by the Inflation Reduction Act, and also the rebates through Peninsula Clean Energy. And also, if people can't afford it, there are going to be exemptions as well. So I'm proud of San Mateo for taking this on, and I really hope you use your leadership to address climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Diane Bailey.
Good evening, Mayor Bonilla and council members, and thank you for the opportunity to comment. My name is Diane Bailey. I'm with the Campaign for Fossil-Free Buildings in Silicon Valley. We're a coalition of 39 groups working together to accelerate a phase out of fossil fuels from our homes and buildings. We strongly support the staff proposed REACH code, and we're happy to see it move forward, including several items related to existing buildings. This shows great leadership from the city of San Mateo. We very much appreciate the extensive public outreach, collaboration, and hard work of staff and commissioners. Our coalition concurs with San Mateo the Climate Action Team, and we respectfully ask you to add a provision for remodels that would prevent the installation of gas furnaces in the remodels to avoid perpetuating this large gas use for 20 more years or longer. This is a very moderate and reasonable step given the significant funding now available that staff and others have spoken to, up to $8,500 in funding with the new PCE funds. Let's move forward together towards a climate-safe future. Please adopt these bold measures. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Bruce Nagel.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I wanted to speak about a couple of things. The first thing is that we want to follow what the young people that have come up and talked. They're the ones who are going to inherit the earth. We owe it to them to have an earth that they can actually inhabit. And I've seen cases where their children come to their parents and are very concerned about whether they'll have a place to live. I also wanted to mention that we are dealing in the art of the possible. And I mean that in regards to the fact that there's been a lot of concern about grid stability, but there are techniques that are available today that are going to lower the amount of strain on the grids. And they're used for being able to make sure that you can charge cars in places where you would normally overload circuits, and heat pumps that are now running on 120 volts and are very reduced in terms of their current. So it's possible to do this. The technology is evolving, and we should do this. And I thank you for your efforts in moving it forward.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Claire Shintani.
Hello, my name is Claire Shintani, and I am 18 years old. I am a San Matean born and raised. I am calling in tonight from my college dorm room to voice support for staff's proposal for all-electric new construction and the 5 measures for remodels of existing residential buildings. Additionally, I request that the current proposal for existing buildings include the San Mateo Climate Action Team's suggested revisions to the remodel measures that were presented to you via email. Staff's current proposed reach codes and a stronger electrification ordinance for existing buildings is imperative and achievable with funding provided through the Inflation Reduction Act and local rebates. Climate change is the greatest threat that my generation faces. In prior city council meetings, I've covered its horrendous physical effects, but I'll take this moment to add that it's also taking a mental and emotional toll. NPR reports, and I can attest, that failure to address climate change directly impacts the mental health of young people. We are dependent upon the actions you take today. We are endangered by those you do not. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dashiell Leeds.
Hello, my name is Dashiell Leeds. I'm the conservation organizer for the Sierra Club Loma Prieta chapter. We're in strong support of San Mateo's REACH code with the inclusion of the San Mateo Climate Action Team's recommendations. Gas pipelines poison our future. They leak throughout their entire mode of transit. They ruin our indoor air quality. They are stranded assets that we know we are going to have to get rid of. We are in the middle of the beginning, I guess I should say, of a transition away from this infrastructure. And your leadership role tonight could really have a catalytic effect. Even this year in other cities' REACH code processes, we could really prevent, if we move forward, a significant amount of unnecessary gas infrastructure being installed. So please, I urge you to take the strongest action possible tonight, and we will see the ripple effect soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tom Kabat.
Hello, thank you, Mayor and Council. It looks like staff has made a moderate proposal in a time where we need even bolder action. And so they're looking to you to take that action and build upon what they put forward. In the analysis, Ms. Chow mentioned that the cost increment to use these two-way heat pumps that do both heating and cooling when we want cooling is only up to $3,000, probably less as the market transforms. But the incentives provided by the 10-year-long Inflation Reduction Act will be $8,000 for low-income families, $4,000 for middle-income families, and an additional $2,000 tax refunds for families that pay taxes. So that's, say, $6,000 for middle-income families to cover a $3,000 cost. This has changed the whole landscape that underline the economics. And so inertia will prevail unless you codify the change.
Tom, that's time. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Rob Newsom.
Hello, City Council and Mayor Bonilla. Thank you for letting me speak today. As a parent in our city, I think there's nothing more important than making our homes more green and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. It's a great idea, and we need to work together to move forward with it. I support electric for all new homes. I do still have concerns because we keep hearing about Peninsula Clean Energy, but we really are not hearing from PG&E. I just want to make sure that the city is getting a plan or a commitment from PG&E to double or even triple the panels for each of our homes and increase the grids for all residents. Last month, during a relatively minor heat wave, PG&E asked us to please not use any electric appliances and not charge our vehicles and turn off as many lights as possible during the afternoons. We need to make sure that PG&E is keeping up with and making improvements to our grid so that we can move San Mateo forward without adversely affecting all of our residents. And we need to do the right thing for our young people, but we need to have a plan to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Nancy Schneider.
Hello, Mayor Benita and council members. My name is Nancy Schneider, and I'm a longtime San Mateo resident. And I'm not going to repeat everything other people have said, but I wanted to echo my support and give my support for the staff proposals for new and existing buildings, but to strengthen the code to include the furnace provision. We need to start making changes now with what's going on with climate change. We can't wait. The U.S. is the leading historical emitter of greenhouse gases, so we need to be the ones that start now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is Lauren Weston.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lauren.
Lauren, we can't hear you.
I apologize.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. I just did my intro to silence. My name is Lauren Weston. I'm the Executive Director for Actera, Action for a Healthy Planet. On behalf of my organization and the residents we serve, I want to thank you for including existing buildings in the REACH code conversation. With time running out, I urge the council to do as much as possible to address emissions from existing buildings during this REACH code cycle. To highlight a couple additions, please consider adding a remodel trigger for installation of heat pump HVAC for heating and cooling, clarifying that new or replacement air conditioning is a sufficient trigger for the requirement of installation of heat pump HVAC, and lastly, revising the status update to reflect that the council has directed staff to study and develop over the course of 3 months a full REACH code for existing buildings based on the Bay Area REACH Codes Group's model ordinance that would take effect January 1. It's important to 2025. It's important to recognize that fossil gas is the fuel of the past, and new appliances must be electric if we are to fully decarbonize. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And a message for the virtual commenters. Our last speaker is Tasso Zogroff, who's next. At the beginning of our public comment period, we set the virtual public speakers at 21 and mentioned that Tasso would be the last one. So Tasso, please go ahead. Tasso, you need to unmute yourself.
Thank you. I apologize for that. For the past 14 years, since 2008, I've been working with the California Air Resource Board, CARB, and EPA to implement and administer California's Clean Truck Program, and now moving to zero emissions. Low-income, disadvantaged communities living near seaport areas experience higher asthma rates and serious health concerns due to emissions from diesel trucks working around the port. I've championed environmental change in a sustainable way by transforming those polluting trucks to a cleaner, healthier California fleet. The keys to our success were: 1, a well thought out, defined strategic rollout plan and exhaustive outreach. In my experience, and from my experience, the current draft plan should not be adopted. It's not ready for the following reasons. There is more confusion than there is clarity. There's no comprehensive menu and clarity on pertaining to rebates. There's no baseline rollout strategy. This is critical to success. And there's no real clarity of cost impacts to stakeholders. I strongly believe it is important that we do all that we can.
Tasso, your time is up.
But we need to do it in a
smart way. Thank you for speaking.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That concludes our public comment process.
Very good. So that was quite a bit of comment. Bring it back to the council here. Somebody, go ahead, Councilmember Goethals.
Sure. Just yesterday, I was picking up my daughter from a friend's house, and I saw that her friend's parents had just done a remodel and they had gone all electric. It was very interesting to see, and they gave me a little tour, and it's very impressive to see how this is possible right now, and I encourage and am excited by the number of people who are choosing to do that. I support this legislation. I also support the ordinance that is coming back to the council early next year to address electrifying existing residential buildings. I think that the education that's going on in the general public right now is a good thing. I think we're headed in the right direction. I'm very proud of the ordinance tonight. So once everyone's had a chance to speak, I'd like to introduce the ordinance.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Rodriguez.
I just want to make sure, the public
throughout the comments, had a lot of questions, and I just wanted to see if we wanted to give staff a chance to ask some of those questions before we get into our.
Do you have the questions there with you? I have a couple that Mr. Fahrenbrook sent.
The ones that I think that I've been asked the most, and this might not be all of them, but it was specifically kind of correcting, or I should say, just interpreting the journal's article that caused a lot of concern in social media and I think just generally among the public about what we're actually passing or recommending tonight. If you want to exchange existing appliances that use gas, are you going to be able to do it come January 1st? If you are doing a remodel and you want to perhaps, you might have to be electrical ready, but you want to keep your gas appliances, would you be able to do it? And I also think that we should clarify the dates that we're talking about and what that means. I think that would be probably best path forward before we get into making motions and stuff like that.
Thank you. Can you respond to that, please?
Sure. I can briefly summarize again, kind of, maybe I'll focus on all electric buildings because that seems to be where the questions are. For new construction, the proposal is to require
I think I'm only talking about existing buildings. I think that's where the brouhaha in social media and emails and everything's going on right now. So only existing buildings, and if you have gas appliances right now and you want to, and let's say your air conditioner goes out, your water heater goes out, and you want to replace it with a gas, that's the question, I think.
Great. So I brought up one of the slides from the PowerPoint. This is also a table in the staff report summarizing the REACH code requirements that impact existing buildings. Like Councilmember Rodriguez was asking, I'll speak directly to the electric equipment that is required and when. So with measure number 3, if you intend to replace your air conditioning and your furnace at the same time, the REACH code requirement is triggered and that equipment must be a heat pump system.
That's number 3.
That's number 3. The other, number 4 prohibits the extension of fuel gas infrastructure into the backyard. So it is, in a sense, requiring that any equipment in your backyard for your pool water heating, if you install a new pool, that be electric as well. And then number 5, this requires a heat pump water heater installation during an addition alteration project. So this is really distinct from requiring every single water heater replacement be electric. It is intervening with addition and alteration projects where there is more time for the property owner to plan for the electric conversion, and that equipment will have to be electric. So these requirements would go into place January 1, 2023.
Okay, and can we talk a little bit more now about the dates that I think several speakers brought up, so the 2025, 2030, and what exactly we're asking staff to do, and what are we asking them to look at, and what is actually going to become, if anything, like tangible with those dates tonight?
Great. So the staff intends to develop a strategic roadmap that decarbonizes our community per City Council's direction. At the City Council priority strategy setting meeting, they directed staff to analyze this effort. And so there is a list of different policy approaches that are listed on the slide that staff will explore. I think you're specifically getting at one that was raised by the San Mateo advocacy group, this existing building decarbonization ordinance. This ordinance contains a variety of provisions. One of them is requiring all equipment upgrades to be, when you do an equipment upgrade, that equipment be electric. And the proposed effective date by the advocacy group is January 1, 2025. So that's one of the dates that has been.
So that is going to be studied, and that there's going to be public outreach, and there's going to be time for public to comment on that in the future. But that's just one option. There's going to be plenty of options, plenty of different roads to go down, and that's going to be discussed as
Exactly. Thank you. Yeah. So the strategy will be to look at all of these different approaches, look at that date specifically and others, to determine what is best for San Mateo. The 2030 date was a date selected by council during the goal setting session to explore what we could do to start to decarbonize buildings.
So as staff is researching this and the public is getting more and more educated about this topic, because there are a lot of misconceptions still out there, next year or early next year, whenever you finish, that's when a decision could be made on making something a little bit more concrete. It could be 2030. It could go beyond that. It could go before that. But it's going to be based on when the community starts to get engaged to make that decision. It's going to be next year.
Yes, there will be a community engagement process throughout this.
Okay, thanks. I just want to clear that up before we started voting.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Rodriguez. Anybody else? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, so there's been this, I'm sorry for my voice, it's annoying me, trust me. So what we adopt tonight is what you had on the screen, right? No, if you go back. For the existing buildings, that's the one I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. Okay, so this is what we're talking about for this night, and the other items that have been brought up and advocated for, we will be considering, just to follow your line of questioning, if I may, Councilman Rodriguez, we will be exploring those things and discussing those items, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I would concur that there is confusion in the community. I spoke last time and the time before that about public outreach, and I want to say it again. I think we do ourselves no service as electeds. I think we do ourselves no service as a city if we don't do the outreach that's required so that we do dispel the confusion that's out there, so that we do get the community on board. And I believe they will be. And I'm tremendously, as I said the third time now, tremendously optimistic that we can get this done. But, you know, this kind of came up a little bit when we discussed ADUs too, and what kind of outreach we should do. Outreach is the key to what we do as a public entity. And we must not shorten the public's ability to be heard. That said, I think we can definitely get there. And we can get to a mandate for January 1 of 2025 as it relates to replacing the HVAC in particular. I'm excited about the rebates. I think that's a fluid situation. I need to hear a little more about who qualifies, who doesn't. I did have a question that related to the 10-year interest-free, and that was, does it stay with the property and stay on the bill with the property? I'm assuming it does, but no one said anything one way or the other.
I'll allow Blake a moment to unmute to...
That's okay. I can find out on my own. It's all right. And anyway, I would concur with Councilmember Goethals. I'm ready to go on this tonight. I'm optimistic about doing the research that we need to do and the outreach that we need to do. I think the public deserves that. And we are doing ourselves a favor, a service as a city to do that. And I think we can get it done.
Thank you very much. Others?
I'd like to make a motion to introduce an ordinance to amend the San Mateo Municipal Code, Chapter 23.40, Energy Code, to adopt the 2022 California Energy Code by reference, amend the San Mateo Municipal Code, Chapter 23.70, Green Building Code, to adopt the 2022 California Green Building Standards Code with local amendments to require enhanced electric vehicle charging infrastructure beyond state requirements, require all electric new construction, and require electric readiness and electric appliances during residential building remodels, and adopt a resolution adopting express findings required for local amendments to the 2022 Green Building Code.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do you have comments on the motion? No? No questions?
No questions. I'm
Okay.
happily supporting it.
Yeah, I have a question, and I'm happy to hear all the support. But I also heard a lot of support from many members of the public who called, or who were here today and who called, urging us to go a little bit farther and include in what we're looking at tonight the change to heat pump HVAC. And I believe that having it be triggered by the air conditioning permit upon remodel is significant. But could you please talk about that in just a little more detail, please, Andrea?
Yes, I wanted to provide the slide again. Sorry, Martin. Will you assist? I apologize for the brief delay here.
Technical difficulties.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to bring up this slide that speaks specifically to the different HVAC scenarios. So I believe you're asking about the two proposed changes from the San Mateo Climate Action Team, the advocacy group.
Yes, that are recommended or requested by the San Mateo Climate Action Team, yes.
Okay. So what I'd like to reiterate about...
The reason I ask is I don't really see it as a far stretch, so I'd like to hear a little bit more about, exactly what it would mean.
Okay, so what I'd like to reiterate about the remodel as a trigger is that you could potentially impact projects that did not intend to install an air conditioner. You could potentially also impact a project that maybe wasn't going to replace their gas furnace at all. So the approach that the current REACH code requirements take is impacting projects where the project applicant has come to the city with the intention to do an HVAC project or with the intention to do a water heater replacement as part of their addition or alteration project. So the potential use of a remodel to impact and a remodel with a water heater replacement to require heat pump HVAC could potentially impact projects that are maybe only on this first line or maybe not even on this table.
So on this slide, does this take into account the impacts from what was announced today regarding rebates? Local rebates are available?
No, this is not inclusive of rebates.
Yeah.
But the gas furnace project, if you're just only doing a gas furnace replacement, is between $4,000 and $6,000.
Right.
And a heat pump HVAC project is estimated between $18,000 and $21,000. So that's primarily where staff's concerns are regarding impacting every single remodel project that is doing a water heater replacement.
Okay, because I thought I heard that it was with the additional funding that's been made available, just local funding, right? And then we're looking at January 1st for IRA funding that's supposedly going to be made available, right? Does this take into effect the IRA funding that's coming from the federal government?
So the numbers presented present numbers without incentives. Incentives will help close the gap, but this current gap is $5,000 to $20,000.
Okay.
So that's a delta of $15,000. And then I'll speak to the second revision,
Yeah, sure.
proposed revision. So the Climate Action Team Advocacy Group also recommended that every single AC project be impacted. So right now, staff's REACH code proposal is this third line, gas furnace and AC projects. So it's roughly cost neutral when you require that heat pump requirement, their proposal is to broaden that to impact all AC projects, so projects that might not touch the gas furnace. So I mentioned when I looked at permitting data, that's probably 60 projects per year in that second line. And a subset of that are gas furnace and AC projects, about half, 30 projects per year. So you'd be impacting a higher number of projects. The cost differential you can kind of see on the table. So homeowner.
It looks like the cost is the same on both of the green line and the blue line.
So that is our current REACH code proposal, but we're looking at line 2, which is AC only.
Okay.
Keep gas furnace, which is $15,000 to $18,000. So there is a cost delta between that
Of maybe
proposed project
$3,000.
of maybe $3,000.
Which could be filled quite easily by a rebate.
Correct. That this is not inclusive of rebate monies.
Right.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's why I asked these questions. I'm wondering if we can amend the motion. Okay, I'd like to offer, yes?
If I could, through the mayor, are both of those proposals going to come back to the council next year? You're studying those? And
We could certainly agree to review that, but this is a modification that could be made to the ordinance with council direction. But
I'm asking to go a little further, Joe.
No, I understand, because when you look at the rebate part, I know where you're getting at. If you look at the rebate part of it, it may take off that differential just on that portion of it. And I would consider entertaining that, because I do think it's, what do they say? It's parity there as it relates to if you're only going to replace your AC, right? If you're only replacing your AC, you keep your gas furnace for whatever reason, but you're keeping it. It's 15 to 18, but when you take into account rebates that are coming forward, you could take care of that differential by doing a heat bump air conditioning. As I know that's a term of art, but that's the term of art I'm using. Is that correct?
The HVAC, right.
Yeah, but you're getting an HVAC that's a heat pump one, and we have cost parity.
It does both. They all do both.
Right, but we have cost parity perhaps, so you can still keep your furnace if you wanted to keep your furnace, but there's no differential if we take into the rebate, right?
yes, the rebate does close that delta.
Okay.
Correct.
That is something that I would consider, because I feel like it's, you're getting parity there, but anyway, that's where I'm coming from.
I'd like to ask the original motion maker if he'd like to amend his motion, or I could offer a amended motion.
yeah, I'm open to amending the motion to include that.
I was prepared to show a potential amendment that would meet the climate advocates group's proposal, which would essentially strike through the proposed language that would then encapsulate all AC projects, as opposed to AC projects in conjunction with a gas furnace. So this,
I'm comfortable with that. So
Six of one, half dozen of the other.
I'll make the motion. I'll amend my motion to include this language and striking the language that limits it only in conjunction with space heating appliance upgrades.
And I would second that. Okay.
If I may, I just want to explain my vote on here, that I agreed with the original motion, and I agreed with city staff's original recommendation, but I don't agree with the addition, so I'll be voting against it. I just want to explain that.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Goethals?
Yes.
Councilmember Lee?
Yes.
Councilmember Rodriguez?
No.
Deputy Mayor Pappen?
Yes.
Mayor Bonilla?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-1.
Okay, thank you. And that was the last item of the last hearing tonight. Now it's time for council reports and announcements. Do we have any council members with any reports or announcements? No. I have any staff reports or announcements? No. I have just one question then I wanted to ask, because I got a question from a member of the public about about the housing element. I know that the city received a letter back from HCD. I'm guessing that staff is reviewing that. Could you please let us know what's going on with that?
Yes, we did receive our comments back from the state's Department of Housing and Community Development a couple weeks ago. We're currently evaluating that comment letter, working with our consultant and with 21 Elements, and we are preparing a staff report for the November 7th council meeting to come back and provide recommendations on the city's proposed response, as well as get some council direction on certain items.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, then I guess this meeting is adjourned.